A creature cloaked in mystery emerged from the primordial shadows in the depths of antiquity, when the old Earth's landscapes were adorned with mystifying marvels. Moschops was a monster from the Permian era whose existence was as mysterious as the rumors of vanished civilizations. Therapsids are a class of extinct reptiles, and Moschops particularly belongs to the family Moschopidae in the order Therapsid. It lived on Earth between 260 and 252 million years ago, during the Permian epoch. The size of Moschops was one of its most notable characteristics. It was a massive creature, measuring between 9 and 12 feet in length and standing between 4 and 5 feet tall at the shoulder. It seemed strong and resilient due to its robust and stocky structure. Moschops' head was one of its most fascinating physical characteristics. Its skull was adorned with unusual cranial decorations that resembled antlers or complex bony structures. Scientists have been enthralled by Moschops' unusual cranial ornamentation, which have long been the subject of discussion. The form and size of these fascinating characteristics differed between species, adding another level of intricacy to the riddle. These structures were prominent and visually striking, setting Moschops apart from other creatures of its time. Several hypotheses have been proposed to explain the purpose of these cranial ornaments, but none have been conclusively proven. The unique combination of reptilian and mammalian characteristics in Moschops extended to its skin and possible presence of hair-like structures. These imposing structures distinguished Moschops from other species of its era and were visually stunning. While Moschops, like its reptilian relatives, had skin that was primarily covered in scales, there is evidence that it may have also had hair-like structures. This conclusion is based on the presence of certain traits and adaptations seen in closely related species, as well as a larger comprehension of evolutionary trends. Moschops' hair-like features, such as rudimentary bristle-like coatings or primitive filaments, are thought to have served as insulation or helped the animal blend with its surroundings. Despite not being actual mammalian hair, these structures may have helped to control body temperature or improve sensory awareness. Moschops had an interesting set of teeth that revealed its unusual diet, which probably included both plants and smaller animals. Moschops have a broad set of teeth at the front of its mouth that resembled blades. These powerful incisors were made for cropping vegetation, indicating that a large portion of the animal's diet likely consisted of plant matter. Moschops may have efficiently consumed plant-based resources by biting off leaves, stalks, or other plant matter with their incisors. Moschops had teeth that were flatter and wider as they moved toward the back of its mouth. The molars and premolars in our mouths were designed to grind and crush food. Such teeth are evidence that Moschops was able to digest more difficult plant components, like roots, tubers, or even fibrous vegetation. Additionally, the back of its mouth's wider and flatter teeth hint at a probable adaptation for eating smaller creatures. Moschops may have been opportunistically included insects, tiny vertebrates, or carrion in its diet, even if the precise makeup and scope of its carnivorous diet are unknown. This dental configuration, with narrower molars for crushing and grinding and specialized incisors for cropping vegetation, implies that Moschops was an omnivorous animal. It could eat a variety of foods, including plants, insects, and possibly small mammals. Like many of its contemporaries, Moschops was a quadrupedal animal that used all 4 limbs to move. This anatomical feature can be seen in how its limbs are positioned underneath its torso to provide stability and support. The limbs of Moschops were well suited for terrestrial mobility in the prehistoric environments it lived in. Its strong, muscular legs allowed it to support the weight of its huge body and move across a variety of surfaces. The strength of Moschops' limbs showed that it was capable of bearing its own weight and moving relatively easily, if slowly and steadily. Moschops have digits with claws on their feet. These claws were probably utilized for traction and grasping on the terrain. The fact that Moschops possessed claws suggests that it could dig into the ground to increase stability and maneuverability. Moschops lived between around 298 and 252 million years ago, during the Permian epoch. Earth's climate and landscapes at the time were very different from what we see today. The Permian epoch saw the Earth go through a range of climatic situations, from tropical to drier and more seasonal settings. It is significant to remember that the Permian period itself was relatively lengthy, and that climate might alter between various areas and historical periods within this era. With extensive marshy ecosystems and dense woods spanning sizable areas, the early Permian was characterized by a temperature that was comparatively warm and humid. The environments in these swampy areas were teeming with plant and animal life, providing Moschops and other species with an abundance of supplies. The proliferation of amphibians and reptiles, together with various plant communities, suggest that this epoch was characterized by a generally warm and wet climate. However, the environment changed significantly over the course of the Permian epoch. Moschops most likely lived in a variety of settings throughout the Permian environments. Particularly in the early Permian period, Moschops probably lived in swampy and wetland habitats. Rich vegetation, including ferns, horsetails, and other water-loving plants, characterized these places. Moschops had plenty of food options thanks to the profusion of plants, and the availability of water supported a wide variety of aquatic species. Forests spread more widely throughout the Permian epoch. These forests, which had a range of trees including conifers and early seed plants, may have been home to Moschops. Drier climate conditions on Earth during the middle to end of the Permian period encouraged the growth of grasslands and savannas in some areas. More arid settings, such as deserts, proliferated as the Permian epoch went on. There was little vegetation in these arid areas, and there were few water sources. With its combination of teeth designed specifically for plant consumption and a potential adaptation for consuming smaller animals, Moschops' dentition demonstrates its capacity to exploit a variety of food resources, aiding in its ecological success and survival in the varied habitats of the Permian period. Depending on a variety of variables like resource availability, reproductive cycles, and predator pressures, it is thought that Moschops likely displayed a combination of solitary and communal dwelling behaviors. Many contemporary reptiles, including Moschops, are solitary creatures who occupy and defend their own areas. Some scholars hypothesize that Moschops may have been largely so. Individuals could have reduced interspecies conflicts and resource competition by engaging in solitary behavior. Although there isn't any concrete proof, it's probable that Moschops had a hierarchical social system. This could entail dominant individuals dominating inferior ones, especially during conflicts over territories, mate selection, or resource access. These social interactions might have involved territorial marking, aggressive displays, or other behavioral indications. Moschops most likely reproduced sexually, involving the fertilization of eggs by sperm like the majority of reptiles and mammals. Therapsids, to which Moschops belonged, frequently employed this reproductive technique. Moschops might have had certain breeding seasons or intervals when mating and reproduction took place. These breeding seasons would have been affected by climate conditions, the availability of resources, or hormonal cues. Talking about their extinction, significant environmental changes such as climate shifts, variations in sea level, and alterations in the makeup of the atmosphere occurred throughout the late Permian epoch. The survival and reproductive success of Moschops and other creatures may have been impacted by these changes to habitats and food availability. Moschops' ideal habitats may have been lost or fragmented as a result of the late Permian's climate and geological changes. It's possible that the loss of ecosystems hindered their capacity to acquire food, establish territories, and successfully reproduce. The Permian Triassic extinction event, commonly referred to as the Great Dying, happened toward the conclusion of the Permian era and is regarded as the most catastrophic extinction event in Earth's history. According to estimates, this catastrophe caused over 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial species, including a large number of Therapsids, like Moschops, to become extinct. In order to comprehend the intricate mechanisms that resulted in Moschops' extinction and the dramatic transformation of life on Earth during the transition from the Permian to the Triassic epoch, scientists and paleontologists continue to research and analyze the fossil evidence that has been discovered. So this was all about Moschops. If you want to get more such updates, hit the bell icon and subscribe to this channel. Also, let us know in the comment section how you find it. By knowing about unique species, we get an idea of how the world, climate, and wilderness was in historic times. We get to know about several new concepts we never knew ever existed. Did you know that there lived a creature named Lepidodium? Click the video on your screen to know more about it.